They have black people in The Simpsons. They have Indian people in The Simpsons. They have Asian people in The Simpsons. But how come all the white people are just yellow? What's going on YouTube? Bessie here, and today we're going to be doing another reaction. But before we get into it, I just want to let y'all know, I don't care who you are, what you've been through, what you into, or what you do. Jesus Christ loves you, and so do I. And with that being said, let's get into it. And today we got Popular Cartoons with Lost Media. This is by Oscar Byron. I've never watched this stuff before, but I do like watching Lost Media in cartoons. So we just gonna get straight into it. We're not gonna do no wrestling. Line me in, turn me up.
So I've done numerous videos in the past about Lost Media, and this, well, is another one. Only this time, focusing specifically on Lost Media from popular cartoons. There's not much more that needs to be said, so let's get into our first entry.
Okay.
The Simpsons, Some Enchanted Evening.
Alrighty.
The Simpsons has been running for 36 years at this point, and has not only had a movie and 800...
Ain't The Simpsons like the longest running TV show of all time? I know, because I remember, like, I was talking to my older sister and I was like, but Looney Tunes has like 1 million spin-offs, but like The Simpsons doesn't have any spin-offs. The Simpsons is like continuously one thing.
And
that's why it's not the Looney Tunes.
It also had a whole bunch of content made surrounding it, like commercials or promos or all kinds of other stuff. So with all that, it's unsurprising that...
I'm not gonna lie, if I watched the Simpsons commercial, like, and it was promoting Butterfingers or something, I'd buy it.
There is in fact some Lost Media surrounding the series, and the title of this entry may have been confusing to some of you. What do you mean Some Enchanted Evening is Lost Media? It's literally the last episode of season 1 and it's right here. Well, this entry is actually referring to the original version of the episode. Okay, so basically, as I'm sure many are aware, The Simpsons began as 1-minute animated shorts that were part of the Tracey Ullman Show. And I won't go into too much detail here, but there was potential seen in these shorts to become their own series separate from the Tracey Ullman Show. And after many disagreements and challenges, eventually Fox chairman Barry Diller would greenlight the series without even requiring a pilot episode for it, and thus the show went into production, with them starting work on the first episode, that being Some Enchanted Evening, which was given the production code of 7G01. The episode was planned to air in the fall of...
Yo, I'm not gonna lie, making a TV show probably is a lot of work, yo. Like, my older sister worked on House of the Dragons, and for those of y'all that don't know what House of the Dragons is, it's like I think it's a prequel to Game of Thrones. I've never seen it, but like it's a multi-million-dollar award-winning TV show. My older sister worked on it, and I just remember like she would spend hours and hours in her room editing and like doing all sorts of like different graphics, trying out all sorts of like SFX and stuff like that. So working on even a cartoon or like a cartoon for this long time, 30 years, that's probably crazy, bro. Like props to all the animators, all the cartoonists, all the TV show producers, props to all of y'all, bro, because y'all got it.
1989 and would have been the first episode to air. So with that, it was written as a way to sort of introduce the audience to these characters. Now, the previous Simpsons shorts were animated entirely by Klasky Csupo, with them all being produced in-house, and so Klasky Csupo was put in charge of animation on the new main series. However, this time, there was a difference. As a budgetary consideration,
it's probably like the animation wasn't as cartoony.
Production of the series was subcontracted to the South Korean animation studio ACOM, which made production cost less. The way it worked was character and background layout would be done locally in Los Angeles, and then in-betweening, colouring and filming would be done in the studio in Korea. This episode, being the first one to be produced, would be the first one to have a work print sent back from the Korean studio, and it was then screened for the production staff at Gracie Films. And
it does look a lot more smoother than like those clips we was just watching though.
The response to it was poor. James L. Brooks, after watching it, stated, quote, "This is shit," and many hated how the animation looked, with it constantly going off model, with the characters just gaining and losing weight at random, and also the backgrounds looking kinda weird in places. On top of this, the producers wanted the show to be animated somewhat realistic.
Also remember, this was like the 80s.
With them not wanting anything to happen that would not be possible in the real world. And thus, they didn't like the elements of Rubber Hose animation visible here, and the animation in general was just kinda weird looking and bad. James L. Brooks and Klasky Csupo animation studio head Gabor Csupo got into an argument over this episode, with Gabor Csupo denying there was anything wrong with the animation quality and suggesting that the writing was the issue.
Fine to me.
So yeah, I mean, that decision to greenlight the series without a pilot, didn't end up being the best one. Anyway, because of how bad this initial episode turned out, the producers even considered aborting the series altogether if the next episode to be animated, Bart the Genius, turned out looking as bad as this one. Fortunately, however, Bart the Genius wasn't nearly as bad and only suffered from a few easily fixable issues. Following this, they requested Fox postpone the series for several months, as this episode, which as a reminder was planned to air in the fall of 1989, was nowhere near ready due to its quality, and thus the series would have...
And like, sure, it's a low quality issue, but you gotta remember, it's the 1980s. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I'll be watching old SpongeBob episodes, and you also gotta remember the TVs weren't like HD, right? I'm watching this, I'm seeing all the color. They had those box TVs. I used to have one of those. Let me show you. I used to have one of these in my room. I used to have one of these TVs in my room, and it had like the little DVD player and stuff like that. When I was like really little, I had one of these in my room. I remember it had the little DVD player, and then whenever it just be like standing there, like just there, it would just be there. Whenever it just be there, it would like do the little thing when it bounces around the corners and stuff. I had one of these, bro. And I had a Bratz DVD, I had a Backyardigans DVD. Was it the DVDs or the tapes? I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was the DVDs, but I'm not sure, bro. It was a while ago.
The premiere December 17th, 1989, with the first episode being switched to Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, which had the production code 7G08.
Imagine the first episode of a series being a Christmas episode. That's probably fire, bro. Could you imagine your first impression of a series is a Christmas special? Because Christmas specials are either really good or really bad.
The reason this episode was aired first was due to it being a Christmas special, and it therefore needing to be aired around Christmas. This delay and reshuffle of episodes allowed the crew more time to fix Some Enchanted Evening, and David Silverman handled directorial retakes, with him estimating that around 70% of the whole thing had to be redone, with most of it consisting of them having to change the backgrounds.
70% as well.
All this would end up resulting in the episode having uneven animation, which you may have potentially noticed when watching it, and I mean, if you rewatch it
I haven't watched it, so I wouldn't notice.
Now, with this knowledge, you'll definitely notice it. I'm showing some examples on screen of scenes in the final episode that were likely retained from the original. You can tell due to the backgrounds of the shots containing gradients as opposed to the solid colours from the final episode. Also, that YouTube video with like 8 million views of that one really smooth scene of The Simpsons comes from this episode, so, you know, just something to note. Now, media gets lost all the time, hence why there's an entire wiki dedicated solely to lost media. But media is also found all the time, which is great.
Facts.
However, something that you wouldn't want anyone to find is your personal information. Luckily, this
not a lot of facts though.
video is sponsored by Aura, so if you didn't
Okay, now we got off of that.
It meant some aspects of the series were just off in it. Since it was meant to come first, it meant that Santa's little helper was just absent in this episode, because of the fact they get him in Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, which was originally meant to come after this. Now, here's where the lost media comes in, as the original version of the episode has never been publicly released.
Those birds look crazy.
In full. However, we do have some parts of it. Obviously, as just mentioned, around an estimated 30% of the episode was retained in the final broadcast version. And on top of this, the season 1 DVD box set included a 5
something always stuck with me when watching The Simpsons, right? My thing is they have black people in The Simpsons, they have Indian people in The Simpsons, they have Asian people in The Simpsons, but how come all the white people are just yellow? You know what I mean? Like, I get it, it's like they're yellow, it's like part of the bit, it's funny, but like, how come all the white people are yellow instead of just pale? You know what I mean? Because if you're gonna make them yellow, I'd assume you make like every character yellow, right? Or am I bugging? I might just be chatting.
Minute clip of the original version as a bonus feature that also included a commentary where we can hear just how much the crew hated the animation.
Imagine sitting there for the first time after working for so long on trying to make a show that you really wanted to be great, and this is
not good.
Oh my god.
It's so off model.
So
that'd be some of the videos I make.
Currently, it's partially found. We can assume the full thing would be 22 minutes, given that's the length of an episode of the series, and we only have a 5-minute clip from the original version, and then a few leftover shots. I really do hope this gets found one day and is released somehow. I don't know how exactly it could be released, or where a copy could even be at this point given its age. And I mean, if it's not been released after like 36 years, it's not looking too promising, but still. It is pretty crazy crazy that what is effectively the pilot to one of the biggest cartoons ever is just lost, and not many people actually know or talk about it. Now, moving on from talking about the pilot to an adult animated series about an American family that aired on Fox, I'm going to talk about the pilot to an adult animated series about an American family that aired on Fox.
Okay.
Family Guy pilot. Family Guy is a series you definitely already know.
I'm not gonna lie, Family Guy, one of those cartoons where like you watch it when you're younger, and like of course you think it's funny, and then you get older and you're like, man, this isn't that good. And then you just watch occasional episodes here and there, because sometimes they do be having funny stuff. Like I watch Family Guy like once every 2 weeks. I'll pick up an episode just because they have like really funny things.
Oh, it was created by Seth MacFarlane
they have their moments
and originally
here and there.
premiered on Fox back on January 31st, 1999. Though there was a lot of stuff that happened before the series' official premiere. Family Guy's origins date back to 1995, when Seth MacFarlane was studying animation at the Rhode Island.
Yo. Glow up, hold on.
Though there was a lot of stuff that happened before the series' official premiere. Family Guy's origins date back to 1995, when Seth
Golly, bro, Seth MacFarlane, if you were watching this, you're probably not, but if you were, that haircut was not doing you justice, bro.
MacFarlane was studying animation at the Rhode Island School of Design. For his thesis film, he created an 11-minute short called The Life of Larry, which is the earliest version of what would eventually evolve to become Family Guy. It follows a middle-aged man named Larry Cummings, who would eventually become Peter Griffin, his cynical talking dog Steve, who became Brian, his wife Lois, and his overweight teenage son Milt, who became Chris. Watching this short now is very interesting, as a lot of the jokes in here were actually reused in Family Guy, and it does feel like a very early form of the show, probably because it is. The Life of Larry would go on to be submitted by Seth's professor to Hanna-Barbera, which led to him getting hired by the company. Then later, Seth would create a sequel to The Life of Larry titled Larry and Steve, which was aired as a part of the animated anthology series What a Cartoon in 1997. This short sees...
I'm not gonna lie, I would watch this. If this was on Boomerang, I'm watching this.
Larry adopts Steve from the pound because he's a talking dog, although no one else can hear the dog talking, which is a similar thing to how Stewie's speech works in the final series. This short also has this one character who appears to be an early Quagmire based on his appearance and also the fact he is a pilot. Following the Larry and Steve shorts, executives at Fox saw them and were impressed with them, which led to them contacting Seth to create a series based on the shorts, and they gave him a budget of $50,000 to create a 15-minute pilot for the series. The pilot Seth created would be the first thing to feature
this
the
be the thumbnail,
family
bro.
we know
Yeah, this would be the thumbnail. I'll get it here in a second.
Today, and he'd pitch it to Fox on May 15th, 1998. Now, this is where the lost media comes in, as this pilot for the series was never released in full. The story of it would be reused and turned into the first episode of the main series, Death Has a Shadow, and we would actually see a release of part of the pilot, as the first 7 minutes of it were included as a bonus feature on the Family Guy Volume 2 DVD, with it cutting to a coming soon screen, which left it as being partially found. Further content from the pilot was available in the form of low-quality images of the rest of the pilot, available on a fan site and also the IMDb page. Now, the fan site, notably, also had some clips of the pilot. However, sadly, they weren't archived and became inaccessible. But more clips of it could be seen in a promo for the series, and also an interview with Seth MacFarlane.
You could even see the Simpsons joints
clearer than this. Lots of fans
this.
wanted to find the full pilot, but it remained lost for many years, until, on March 20th, 2025, user Ghost the Dead Girl discovered the entire pilot on the personal website of Robert Paulson, who was credited on the pilot under compositing and digital ink and paint. And what's especially interesting is the pilot had been available on the site from September of 2022, but just no one had realised, so it was still just classed as lost, despite being online all that time. Now obviously, after it was discovered, it was re-uploaded and archived in...
Yo, after this, I might watch some of these. Like some of these clips and like the Simpsons joints, if I could find them, I might watch some of these, bro.
Many places online, marking
I don't know,
it as
I'm
found.
invested.
Now, this pilot does in fact follow the same story as the first episode of the actual series, with a few differences, mostly in the characters and house, with characters looking slightly different or having parts of them be differently coloured. 12-Ounce Mouse pilot. 12-Ounce Mouse is an animated series created by Matt Malero, which was aired on...
This just looks like a horrible TV show, yo. This looks like one of those things where, like, if you put it in front of them, this looks like if you were watching a cartoon, like let's say you're watching Bob's Burgers, and in Bob's Burgers won't do this. Let's say you're watching American Dad, and in American Dad, they animate a cartoon and they make a cartoon, and then they show like a little preview of the cartoon on American Dad, right? This is what this looks like. Like, hold on. Like, just tell me this doesn't look like that. Like, just tell me that this doesn't look like that.
On Adult Swim. The series originally released from 2005 to
this looks
2006, where it had 2 seasons. Later, in 2007, another webisode was released online, and in 2018, the series was brought back for a special titled Invictus, with it then, a couple of years later, in 2020, being revived.
Yo, those shows on Adult Swim were terrible, bro. I remember one night I fell asleep watching Adventure Time, and I woke up at like 3 a.m. in the morning. I was in a cold sweat. And it was this one show with like this big swole white guy and like this one blonde dude with a horrible tan, and like I think it was Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and like the big swole white guy just ripped the blonde guy in half. And I was like 7 years old. That was crazy. Let me see if I can find it.
For a 3rd season. The series is most notable for its poor quality, cheap animation, which is usually the first thing people notice when they see the series. The exact budget for the series has never been publicly revealed. However, we do have this one quote from Matt Malero, who stated that production would cost, quote, $5 and will take some of the paper sitting in the copier. The series followed Mouse Fitzgerald, a mouse who likes beer, and his chinchilla mate, Skillet. Fitz does various different odd jobs in order to get more money so he can buy more beer. And initially, the series appears as an absurdist comedy, but as the series goes on, we get more information about what's really going on in this world, as Fitz starts to remember some suppressed memories about how he, at one point, had a wife and kid, who are no longer there, and so he attempts to find out the truth about what happened. Now, the first episode of the series is called Hired, and was first shown on the network June 20th, 2005. However, there was actually another episode created before this
is before I was
a pilot. This episode wasn't actually known about up until 2021, when 12 Ounce Mouse editor John Breston mentioned it in an interview with the fan site Corndog Central. He stated that only a few staff...
Yo, do y'all think any producer of any show on Adult Swim that wasn't at some point bought out by Fox, do y'all think any of those folk made any money? Like, no way the creators of Squidbillies made more than like I'm saying, do you think that any show on Adult Swim that wasn't bought out by Fox that had like creators, do you think those creators made bread? There's no way the creator of Squidbillies made like more than $200,000. No way he did. Cause who's watching that?
Were aware of its existence, and that at the time, Adult Swim Vice President Keith Crawford provided the voice for the character Golden Joe, who in the final series was voiced by Vachelle Roney. Golden Joe was also Fitz's boss in this pilot, which in the final series was changed to Shark being Fitz's boss at the start. Now, tragically, this pilot is lost forever, as it was not saved anywhere, and it is now unretrievable. Phineas and Ferb Delivery of...
While I'm on it, Pickle and Peanut was a terrible show too.
Destiny. Delivery of Destiny is the 42nd episode of the 3rd season of Phineas and Ferb, and whilst the episode itself is obviously not lost,
Phineas and Ferb is my top 5 childhood cartoons of all time, and in terms of Disney, I think Phineas and Ferb is the best Disney show of all time.
Paul the delivery guy, who ends up having to go to both Phineas and Ferb's house and also Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated. And in the original version of this episode, Paul was voiced by Christian Slater, but for its UK release, Paul's lines were dubbed over by British actor Simon Pegg. This came after, on June 2nd, 2012, he had tweeted, "We all got a platypus controlling us," which was a line from the season 2 episode Brain Drain. And
great
a
episode,
few weeks later, Simon Pegg was offered the role of Paul the delivery guy and also his father for the UK version of the episode, where he dubbed over the original recording done by Christian Slater.
Is that Huey Campbell's
This episode
dad?
was first aired on Disney XD UK March 7th, 2013, with Simon Pegg tweeting, "Hey, I think my Phineas and Ferb was on Disney XD today. Hope you enjoyed it if you caught it," after its airing. Now, this version of the episode was only ever aired on UK Disney channels.
And didn't Phineas and Ferb stop airing in 2015?
As all other versions available elsewhere were the original US version. And on September 30th, 2020, Disney shut down both Disney Channel and Disney XD in the UK in favour of Disney Plus, which made the only place this version was ever seen no longer available, with even Disney Plus in the UK only having the original version. This left the Simon Pegg dub as lost media, which is honestly surprising. It's pretty crazy
wonder
that
how
a
it
version of
sounded.
an episode of a very popular cartoon from only the 2010s could be lost media, especially since so many people probably watched it and it aired so many times. It's very likely I even watched it, but alas, it was
Maybe.
lost. Although some
in the
footage
UK?
from it still remained, as there was a short promo clip viewable on the Disney Channel UK YouTube channel. Furthermore, an Associated Press interview with Simon Pegg about his cameo featured a few more clips of the episode. Anyway, this episode would later go on to be found on June 23rd, 2025 by user Charter Schoolgirl, where it was then posted to the Internet Archive. However, it was later taken down and, try as I might, I
copyright?
actually just
Yeah,
can't find
probably.
the episode. I have to assume it is now somewhere online though, since it was briefly available there, but like, I just couldn't find it. I even found a Reddit thread about it, and the comments were just like, damn, I hope someone downloaded that. If anyone has this, please re-upload it.
Let me know too.
Rick and Morty Subway commercials.
So
Rick and Morty is an Adult Swim series.
I remember the
following
Pringles
wacky
commercials. I never
adventures
saw
of
the
Morty
Subway
Smith
commercial.
and his mad scientist grandfather, Rick Sanchez. It originally premiered on the network back on December 2nd, 2013, and was an
Jeez.
instant hit. It quickly would go on to become the network's biggest original series, which is a title it still holds to this day. It was huge for the first few years after its release. You could find merch of the series everywhere, and lots of people loved the show, and with
Yeah.
that, Subway wanted to get in on the show's popularity. So at some point, likely around early 2015, series co-creator Justin Roiland was approached by Subway to create a series of commercials for them that featured Rick and Morty, to
Fair
which
enough.
he agreed. The final commercials that were made ended up featuring Rick and Morty exclaiming that they were, quote, the new Jared, and then promoting Subway products, which is them referring to and saying they've now replaced Jared Fogle, the, at the time, Subway spokesperson who had been featured in many different Subway commercials
It
over
ended
the
up
years,
being,
starting back in 2000 after Subway heard his story of how he lost 245 pounds from his diet of eating Subway sandwiches. Now,
he ended up being.
you probably know where this
yeah,
is going,
I
but
do.
on
I do know
July
where it's going.
7th, 2015, Jared's home was raided by the FBI, and he
That
was
happened in
arrested
2015? I thought they caught him back in like 2006, 2007, 2008. You telling me this just happened? 2015. I was in. Dog, 2015? I was in third grade. I was in third grade when this went down. That's ridiculous, bro. This just happened. That's crazy.
for receiving and also distributing child pornography. And he also did a whole bunch of other stuff to do with kids. Basically, he was a pedophile. And obviously, immediately after that, Subway would cut ties with Jared and get rid of any references to him, because it's not a great look to have a child molester promoting your sandwiches.
It isn't.
Since these Rick and Morty commercials
Subway
heavily
fire,
referenced
though, bro.
Jared,
I
they
don't
were
know Subway
cancelled. Not even that long before they were set to premiere either. In total, there were 4 commercials made, and they are all now lost media. And
Okay.
I don't exactly know what was in these commercials, but from what we know about them, it actually might have been the perfect time for them to wear. Obviously, I know Subway would never do that for obvious reasons. However, Jared's position at the company was
I'd like
definitely
to
open
watch
at this point. And,
I'd like to
having
watch a
a
Rick and
commercial there
Morty
with Rick
Subway
and Morty saying they're the new
episode.
Jared right
Or
at this
Rick and Morty
point could have actually
Subway
been quite fitting depending on the
ad.
actual tone of the commercials.
I'd
But
watch
obviously that was never ever going to happen ever in a million years. As of right now, these commercials are still lost, with the only
Okay.
person known to have a copy of them being Justin Roiland, who has stated he can't share the commercials for legal reasons, which makes sense. However,
Yeah.
there is still some hope for their release, as Roiland did state that he put the commercials onto 8 thumb drives and then put them in random places. Out of these 8, 4 were moved by unknown people when Roiland checked on them, which means someone out there at some point had these commercials. However, as of now, nothing has ever surfaced from this Rick and Morty Subway collab, and I mean, it's been over a decade since it, so it's not looking too promising.
I'm not gonna lie, that is such a Justin Roiland thing to do.
But hey, I mean,
I'm not
Lost
gonna
Media
lie.
just shows up sometimes. And I mean, if you do find a random sketchy USB somewhere, you should totally 100% plug it into your PC with no protection, because it might have the Rick and Morty Subway commercials on it.
Okay.
Smiling Friends Uncensored Episode 1.
Smiling Friends?
Smiling Friends is an
Yeah.
Adult Swim series following Pim, Charlie, Alan and Gleb, who are Smiling Friends working at the Smiling Friends HQ for Mr. Boss, with them having to go out and help people smile, and it's the newest series to have an entry in this video. And I know what you're thinking, how could Smiling Friends possibly have lost media? The
'Cause it was
pilot's not
new,
even
yeah.
6 years old, and the actual show's only 4 years old. Well, it
Imagine dropping a show on April Fool's Day.
does.
Crazy
Basically, when Smiling Friends pilot was first aired aired and made available online around 2 years before we'd get the first season, it was censored, which makes sense given that shows are censored when aired on Adult Swim. However, it was also censored when it was posted to Adult Swim's website. But you know what? Fair enough. I mean, this was only a pilot at this point, so maybe they just reused the censored TV version and without much thought. However, it was later turned into a full series, and when that full series became available to stream, now on HBO Max, it was uncensored. But even with the series coming to HBO Max and being uncensored, the pilot remains censored, and it even remained censored on the Blu-ray release of season 1 that stated on the box that the episodes were uncensored, which is confusing. The fact Adult Swim has never released an uncensored cut is weird, as the rest of the show is available uncensored, so maybe they just don't have an uncensored version. However, that wouldn't make sense, since why would it be made censored? This leaves the original uncensored cut of the episode as lost media. Well, actually, partially lost media, as we do have a brief clip of the uncensored version, which both proves it does exist somewhere and also means it's partially found. This clip comes from the Twitter page of Brendan Caulfield, who does music for Smiling Friends. It's of the rotoscope guy saying,
"Whoa, what the fuck, dude? Don't touch me!"
and is all we have of the uncensored pilot as of right now, but hopefully someday it'll just be released.
That would be cool.
And that concludes the look into lost cartoon media. If you did enjoy, don't forget to like and subscribe for more similar videos in the future. Also, check out Our Stupid School. It's a show I made and I'm in, and it also technically has lost media because there's a pilot that I never released, but yeah, goodbye.
Later. But y'all heard him. If you like that video, please leave a like and subscribe for Oscar Byron, shout out you. And if you liked this video, please leave a like and subscribe for me. I'd really appreciate it. But with that being said, God bless.